Hello, it's Waiting for 976 here with the truth. And this one's about Ron and Rand Paul. Down, 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 down. Well, that's what they are to me, and I don't mean that in a good way. I'm a country boy, but I'll tell you what, these are two guys that I'm ashamed to say that they're country boys like me. Because they say they're libertarians for civil liberties and things like that, but they're not. They're just... well, I mean, there are a few things that I agree with Ron Paul on, like less aggressive foreign policy and let's cut defense spending, but underneath all that, he's really a racist kook, him and his son both. This is also a video response to a wonderful young blogger named Civil War 100. I think, when you watch this video, I'm going to put a couple of his videos up. Do me a favor, go to his page, hit that little yellow button that says subscribe, and friend. You'll enjoy listening to what the young man has to say. Now, he talked about how he's talked about in plenty of videos how Ron Paul is not a true libertarian, and I could not agree more. A real libertarian is for little, small government, or some are like the anarchists and stuff are not for any government, but they're also for civil liberties, which is something Ron Paul may have skipped because his voting track record shows that he has voted against abortion law, to restrict on abortions and gay marriage. And he also has said some pretty racist things, so here I go, ladies and gentlemen. This is from realchange.org, talking about Ron Paul. Now, these quotes are a while back, but the thing is, why didn't nobody talk about them? Now, these are actual quotes from Ron Paul. If you have ever been robbed by a black teenaged male, you know how unbelievably fleet-footed they can be. Ron Paul, 1992. Given the inefficiencies of what D.C. laughingly calls the criminal justice system, I think we can safely assume that 95% of the black males in that city are semi-criminal or entirely criminal. Ron Paul, 1992. We don't think a child of 13 should be held responsible as a man of 23. That's true for most people, but black males ages 13 who have been raised on the streets and who have joined criminal gangs are as big, strong, scary, and capable as any adult and should be treated as such. Ron Paul, 1992. That's just some of them. Again, does this sound like a man who's for civil liberties, folks? Sound like a real libertarian, socialist libertarian, or democratic libertarian, or just a moderate libertarian for the love of humanity? He's a Republican, and not an Abraham Lincoln Republican. Okay. Now, some more from Dr. Paul, or as I like to call him, Grandmaster Racist. Okay, here we go. Needling. Oh, this is from news1.com. Needling, a new form of racial terrorism, has struck New York City streets on the Upper West Side. At least 39 white women have been struck with used hypodermic needles, perhaps infected with AIDS, by a gang of black girls between the ages of 12 and 14. The New York Times didn't find this fit to print for weeks and weeks until its candidate David Dinkins was safely elected. Even though the story was very low-key, with race mentioned many paragraphs into it. Wow. This is Ron Paul, the great civil libertarian, on Martin Luther King Day. Boy, it sure burns me to have a national holiday for that pro-communist philanderer, Martin Luther King. I voted against this outrage time and time again as a congressman. One in infamy that Ronald Reagan approved it. We can thank him for our annual Hate Whitey Day. Annual Hate Whitey Day, huh? Look, I know there are radicals on all sides and that there are racists in all races, but this is a man, folks, with a deep-seated, it seems like a deep-seated hatred of the African American community. Now, Ron Paul has also had some suspicious donators. Now, I've been asked before to name them. Okay, all you got to do is Google, and you'll find plenty of sources and stuff that say where I got this from a lot of sources. Ron Paul donators. Stormfront, a white supremacist group. Vanguard News Network, a white supremacist group. And the Nationalist Coalition, another white supremacist group. And White Pride, well, yeah, that Stormfront, their motto is White Pride Worldwide, donated $500. And he's married, Ron Paul is, to the ex-wife of former Louisiana legislator David Duke, a former Klansman who has supported Ron Paul. Ron Paul, you are not a libertarian. Not a real one, that is. You, sir, are a fraud. Also, Ron Paul voted against. He was the only member of Congress, meaning that even John the Orange Boehner and Eric Cantor and all them voted for the 40th anniversary of the civil to acknowledge the civil rights movement. Ron Paul voted against it. Ron Paul also said he was opposed to the Civil War. This is according to News1.com. Wow, this was this is very telling. Now, a few things that have been written were from supposed newsletters. These right here were actual quotes, and about Martin Luther King Day and stuff and needling. But for some people who are going to jump on my video and go, "Oh my God, it was somebody else wrote it," the fact is, Ron Paul should have been aware of this, and he let it go for decades. Give me a break. Oh yeah, and someone who worked for him, who was fired, but it took a long time, named Christopher Hightower, wrote several racist comments on his page, including Happy End Day on Martin Luther King Day with a picture of an African American being lynched. Wow. Should be proud there, Ron Paul fans. Be proud. His son Rand Paul, no better. He said when Rachel Maddow, and this is from AOL News, when Rachel Maddow asked him point blank whether he thought private businesses should be able to refuse service to black customers, Rand Paul said, "Do the owners own the restaurant? Own his restaurant, or does the government own his restaurant?" Of course, he had to retract that statement, but the fact is, he said it. And who was their hero, folks? Well, of course, Ayn Rand, who said to Mike Wallace, when he asked her, now, if you think someone is, a man or a woman is weak, are they beyond love? They do not deserve love? They are certainly beyond it. They do not deserve love. Ayn Rand also said in The Virtue of Selfishness, she compares Medicare to a hoodlum who robs and kills to acquire a yacht and champagne. I wasn't racist and evil at the same time. There is no moral difference between these two examples. Wow. When asked about Jesus Christ, and that we should love one another, and that we are all our brother's keeper, and that what was wrong with placing love everywhere, besides just yourself, Mike Wallace asked her if it was immoral. She said, "Is it immoral if it is a love placed above oneself?" And Fatso Rush Limbaugh wrote that she was brilliant, the smartest minority on earth. March 31st, 2009, from the RushLimbaugh.com. And FreedomWorks is pushing to get her movie, Atlas Shrugged, into as many theaters as possible. That was March 23rd, 2011. It seems like Ayn Rand and her evil, cold, withered up heart have infected the Libertarian Party and the Republican Party. Ronald Reagan, Alan Greenspan, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, the idiot. I'm so mad right now. I mean, Paul Ryan, who wrote that budget. They want to kill these social programs because Ayn Rand was their teacher. And her books are on the rise in sales, mainly among conservatives and stuff. Be proud. Okay? You want to save the Libertarian Party? You better save it quick. Because even though a lot of people are like, Ayn Rand's not a libertarian, well, by God, she's infecting it. You know it's the damn truth.